September 19, 2011 edition of the Amelia Village Council meeting. At this time, I'm going to call the meeting to order at 7:07 p.m. Ask everyone to stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, once again, welcome to the September 19, 2011 Amelia Village Council meeting. I'd like to welcome those who have chosen to be here with us in council chambers tonight, and also welcome those who may be watching this meeting on the Clermont County Communications channel number 22, or by way of Amelia Village website at www.ameliavillage.com. As always, we encourage residents of the community, business leaders, etc., to business owners, etc., to join us at every meeting possible. Your input is wanted, and we'd be happy to hear from you. First item on the agenda this evening is the approval of previous meeting minutes, the regular meeting from August 15th. Let the record show the council's received their packets in advance of tonight's meeting and has had an opportunity to review the contents. Oh, yeah, we do. Yeah, let's go. Kevin, let's go with a roll call, if you don't mind.
Mr. Campbell.
Here.
Mr. Hart.
Here.
Ms. Gerber.
Here.
Mr. Pollock is absent. Mr. Rosser is absent. And Mr. Thacker.
Here.
Thank you, Tom.
We have 4 of 6 members, so we do have a quorum.
All right. I want to ask everyone to keep in their thoughts 2 of our council people who were both recently injured. Tim Rosser was involved in a work-related accident and was laid up, and Bob Pollitt was involved in an accident today as well. Ask everyone to keep them in your thoughts, please. At any rate, on to the approval of the previous meeting minutes, August 15th. I would entertain any motion from council on these minutes.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Any discussion or questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell.
Yay.
Mr. Hart.
Yay.
Ms. Gerber.
Yay.
Mr. Thacker.
Yay.
Passes.
Minutes from August 15, 2011 are approved. Next item on the agenda this evening is the mayor's report for Monday, September 19, 2011. Under the heading of meetings, I've been involved in correspondence with many people on behalf of the Amelia Village since the last meeting, including but not limited to the following: Interim Police Chief Wallace, representatives from the Union Township Fire Department, Fiscal Officer Kevin Pyle, Village Solicitor Laura Abrams, Pat Madel from CDS Engineering, village staff and police personnel, as well as village residents. Under the heading of resignation, on August 29, 2011, I received a letter from Vice Mayor Bob Pollitt. In that letter, Mr. Pollitt resigned his position as Vice Mayor. As Mr. Pollitt is not here this evening, we will defer this matter to the next meeting. Under the heading of Clermont County Sheriff's Office and Amelia Police Department contract issue, on Tuesday, September 6, 2011, Amelia Village Council was scheduled to hear the 3rd reading on legislation that would enter Amelia Village into a contract with the Clermont County Sheriff's Office for police services. I canceled that meeting on Tuesday, September 6, 2011, early that afternoon, stating that the legislation to contract with the Clermont County Sheriff's Office was the only item on the agenda, and since both jurisdictions have determined that it is not in their best interest to move forward with the contract, there was no need for the meeting. While I think the discussion has been valuable, and I believe both Amelia and County would have benefited financially from a contract, I'm frankly not certain how Village Council would have decided this issue. Some council members wish to keep the Amelia Police Department, even if it is downgraded to just one officer on a pony. And other council members are swayed by the financial benefits of such a contract. I have been very vocal that I want there to be an Amelia Police Department. However, these are times when Americans are calling for a government to be run like a business, and while I am an advocate for having our own police department, it has been very difficult to ignore the financial benefit to Amelia Village if that contract had been executed. Needless to say, I have been disappointed by the fact that only a handful of village residents have come forward to support the Amelia Police Department. With a new mayor and the new village council taking office in January 2011, the Claremont County Sheriff's Office expressed concerns that if council would have accepted the proposal to contract with the Sheriff's Office by adopting the legislation in the third reading on September 6th, Amelia Village residents could have filed a referendum and forced the issue to a ballot. If that happened and that vote passed, then the county would have used taxpayer dollars to hire and train 5 sheriffs to patrol Amelia. Deputies that would have no assignment if that referendum effort were successful. Speaking for myself, I would see that as something less than good use of the taxpayer dollars. In an effort to address their concerns, initially, the Sheriff's Office proposed that a 3-year non-cancelable contract would alleviate their concerns. Something I would have never been in favor of agreeing to, but nonetheless planned to present to council for their consideration on September 6th. Another important issue raised was whether Amelia Village police levy funds could be used to contract for police services or can only be used on the Amelia Police Department. While there are differing opinions on that matter, I understand the hesitation of the Claremont County Sheriff's Office to proceed with the contract without having this issue resolved. Because frankly, if someone were to challenge the issue, the use of those funds from the Sheriff's Office in court, Claremont County taxpayers would be taken for quite a ride, quite a costly ride. And the Sheriff's Office has an obligation, as we do here in the village, to remain fiscally responsible. That all being said, the Prosecutor's Office does have the ability to request an Attorney General's opinion on this matter. In the interest of the future Amelia Council and future CCSO leadership, I have requested that Sheriff Rodenberg ask the Prosecutor's Office for an Attorney General's opinion in this matter. And while that opinion is not binding in any way, it could provide a legal baseline for the future Amelia Council and future Sheriff's Office leadership. Now, does that mean that we will continue to explore this issue? Not necessarily. It just means that as I leave the office of mayor, I do not wish to handcuff future village leadership by not seeking that opinion. And because I do not see a time in the near future where Amelia Village's fiscal situation will improve, I think it's important for future village leadership to have such information available to them, as much information that is available to them in order to make informed decisions in the future. If future Amelia leaders are interested in this area, they will at least have a baseline legal opinion on this concern. I've heard nothing back yet regarding the Attorney General opinion. I'm not sure exactly how long something like that would take. So the question remains, where do we go from here? Village leadership will continue to crunch the numbers in an effort to plan for the future. Beyond that, it's business as usual. The Amelia Police Department will continue working hard to provide the highest level of service possible to our citizens. Under the heading of Solicitor's Contract on September 16th, I forwarded a document by way of email to all council members. That document was a memo from Solicitor Laura Abrams indicating several important points. Number one, our current contract will expire on November 1, 2011. The retainer amount was set at 636 hours to be billed at $110 per hour. The retainer hours had been exceeded as of September 6, 2011 by 31.1 hours. Those 31.1 hours were to be billed at $145 per hour for a total of $4,509.50. Ms. Abrams noted in that memo Given the village's financial situation, I have no intention of seeking payment for that amount. In 2010, Ms. Abrams donated 53 hours of legal advice for what would have been a total of $7,685 in fees. A total donation of legal fees in the amount of $12,194.50 for those 2 years. The solicitor cannot donate all of her time until November 1st contract deadline, and from any legal representation, advice, etc., will be billed at a $145 per hour rate. The last and final point, most important point in that letter, was that Solicitor Abrams will not be returning as village solicitor in 2012. At this time, I would open the floor to council for discussion on how to proceed and for any motions that might need to be made.
Guess we gotta look for a new one, so we need to advertise for it. I'm assuming, right?
You can advertise or maybe put out a press release first. And if they write a story about it, then maybe you won't be hit with an advertising fee.
Well, I think we should do both, because we're gonna have to.
Start with one and then do the other.
Well, we got, what, a month? How long do we have to run an ad for?
You're still available, though, for,
Now, I'll help in whatever way. I just want you guys to know in advance so that you can take the actions you need to.
Well, we put the newspaper article out. See if they'll print a newspaper article, that we'll be looking for one. Let's see where that gets us at the next meeting. If it doesn't get any response by then we can go ahead and
If you want, I can
Put an
look
ad
at
out.
what it costs to put it in the legal journals. I don't think it's very much. That would certainly get you a decent response. It's the Cincinnati Bar Association.
Excuse me for interrupting. You're talking about the Cincinnati Court Index? Or?
No, that's expensive. I would do the Cincinnati Bar Association. They have a newsletter that goes out to all their members. And you can also put it in the Ohio Bar Association books, but I don't know what that costs. But I
I
can
know,
find out.
Bethel said they just put an advert. They actually contacted the community journal. They ran a little story. Next thing they know, they had a flood of applicants. So,
Okay. Save us the cost. Let's do it.
right.
I can do that. I'll issue a press release and see what kind of response we get from that. Under the heading of zoning, a few interviews have been conducted. We have a few very good candidates. This issue has been temporarily placed on hold and probably should be addressed by the incoming mayor. I would accept any feedback from the council on that issue. Under the heading of Candidates Night, at this time I'd like to publicly invite those who are on the ballot for the vacant Amelia Village Council and mayor seats in 2012 to the next Amelia Village Council meeting on Monday, October 3rd, 2011 at 7 p.m. At that meeting, each candidate will have 3 minutes to address the citizens of Amelia by way of our televised meetings. Those meetings will air on Clermont County Communications and will also be available via Amelia Village website for roughly 2 weeks prior to the election, providing citizens an opportunity to make an educated vote. Once all the candidates have had an opportunity to address the citizens at this meeting, I will open the floor for residents and those in attendance at the meeting to ask questions of those candidates. I've asked Julie to contact all candidates to invite them to take advantage of this opportunity to promote themselves. I hope that all candidates will take part in this exercise. I'd like to recommend that at this time, 2012 appropriation strategies begin discussion with the Finance Committee. Next Finance Committee is first meeting. Is that the
First Monday of October, which
Okay.
make it the 3rd.
You do have the approved budget back from the County Budget Commission with their estimates. I do want to let council know that the estimates can change between now and December. based on what the tax commissioner says as far as the actual tax rates, local government distribution, which are the two biggest sources of revenue for the general fund.
Okay. It's primarily information for the Finance Committee. Just want to coordinate with the fiscal officer, making sure you have the documentation we need to begin the process. Last item I have on my report is under the heading of fiscal FYI. I've asked fiscal officer Kevin Pyle to provide some data for me for this evening's council meeting. First, I asked for the projected carryover balance for the general fund in 2012. You have those documents close by there?
Yeah, my printer was dying, so I couldn't make copies of everything.
I think the documents that you sent to me, everybody has those.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the first set of documents, it goes across. It has the current year, 3 prior, and then projected 12. That one is basically what was submitted to the, this is just for the police fund. That's the one that was submitted to the County Budget Commission.
Where I'd like to start, if you don't mind, Kevin, is projected carryover balance for general fund in 2012.
Okay.
Is that accurate, that $189,796.23?
After going through everything, 2012 is looking at 135. I had to make some adjustments.
That's since you sent the document out?
Yeah.
So the projected carryover balance for the general fund into 2012 is no longer the 189,000, it's 135.
Yeah, I had an error in the revenues.
Okay. So the correct balance is?
It would be the 135,218 would be the 2012 ending balance.
Is that listed in the spreadsheet that council has?
It will be, yeah.
It will be?
Yeah.
So the one that they have on the desk now needs to be revised?
Should make sense. Oh. Sorry for the poor quality. My printer was dying.
Also, if I understood correctly, maybe this number has changed also, projected end of 2012 balance, and that's just a projection for the general fund for the end of 2012, is that $18,857?
You know, the projected ending 2012 for the general was the 135.
No, I'm talking about 2012.
Yeah.
Then what was the projected carryover into 2012?
121,503. That's based on the. Make sure now which one I'm looking at. Those numbers, the carryover was based on 8-month average where possible. Some of the expenses for 2011 are quarterly, some are annual, some are by pay period. I had to go through and make sure I was putting down the right numbers for each one.
Okay, so for my notes here, make sure I've got it right. The projected carryover balance going into 2012 for the general fund is $121,503.
Yes.
And the projected end-of-year balance for 2012 general fund is $135,218.
Yes. There are some of the biggest expenses that the village will be seeing: hospital, medical insurance. I took this year's premiums and increased them by 10% because that's what everyone's projecting that I'd read. There'll also be almost $14,000 for the district health next year. The general fund tax revenues have decreased the estimation fairly by about 20 or 30,000, I believe. And interesting thing, the estimate for local government is actually higher than either the auditor or I thought originally. We thought it'd be around 75,000. It's actually 96, which helps make up a little bit for the real estate. Unfortunately, the rollback homestead is tied directly to the real estate, and it's dropping basically by the same 20,000 or so that the general is. The general fund's coming out behind a little.
Were you able to come up with a projected carryover balance for the police fund into 2012?
Yes. I actually ran the police fund 4 different ways. The one on this particular sheet is based on 2011 estimates, and looking at $90,100 roughly carryover balance at the end of 2012. 2012 will start at about 71,230.
We're starting out at 71,230 in 2012.
Current estimates, yes.
71,230.
In the sheets I passed out to council members, they can see that there's 4 pages, 4 different ways to calculate. As I said, the one that I used for your estimates is based on January through August average expenditures. If you just use the village accounting software, it actually comes up higher. If you use a 3-year average, it comes out substantially lower. So I was trying to strike a middle ground with it.
Without looking at the document, what is the lowest of the 3 and
50,000.
what's the highest?
That'd be the ending balance. Starting balance would only be 29, almost $30,000.
Okay, so
And the only thing that's fairly consistent through all of them is the estimates of taxes and revenues, because that's a number that's been given to me by the tax commissioner or budget commission. Expenditures, it really depends on how you figure the projection. Do you base it on 2011? Do you base it on appropriations? Do you base it on 3-year average?
just to go back in time for just a moment here, just to make sure I wrote things down correctly. The projected carryover balance for the police fund into 2012 is $71,230.
Yes. At the end of 2011, it was $71,230. That'd be the starting
Yeah,
balance.
yes,
Okay.
going into
Okay.
2012. And the estimated, and then the other one was,
The ending balance of 90,100 roughly.
that's at the end of 2012?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, and are you able to come up with an average Amelia Police Department monthly expenditures?
It was right around 29,000. The largest portion of that being wages, benefits, insurance, Medicare, police pension.
So the average monthly expenditures for the APD are roughly $29,000. And about how soon do you anticipate that we receive our first revenues from the Amelia Police levy?
In January, council can request advances on the tax settlement,
Which we always do.
and the auditor's office will submit those advances as money accrues. The actual settlement will be sometime late February, early March. The statutes, if I remember correctly, do specify that the tax bills are supposed to go out in December. But in the whole state, I think there's only 2 or 3 counties that can meet that deadline just because of doing all the calculations that are required. I know that, as an example, Hamilton County a few years back, when January weather was so bad towards the end of the month, the treasurer got a 2 or 3 week extension from the tax commissioner because of the bad weather. So, but odds are, I'm guessing it's going to stick to the same schedule. The bills will go out sometime in early January with settlement late February, early March.
That being said, did I understand you correctly that those payment, that's also subject to payment of taxes to the auditor's office, correct?
Right.
So if you have a year when a lot of people don't pay their taxes,
There's not going to be a whole lot to advance. Depending on also how aggressive the prosecutor and treasurer are on delinquencies, there may be a fairly large delinquent tax already paid in. And there's always a fairly goodly number of people who want to pay their real estate taxes in the current calendar year rather than waiting for the following year, just so they can get the tax benefit on their federal taxes.
right?
It's not that big a number, but usually it's the people that have the biggest tax bills want to do that. And my experience has been that the corporate taxpayers will try to wait until the very last day.
Okay. I have a couple other questions for open to council. Back on the general fund, going into going into 2012 with a ending balance of $121,503. Do you have, and I didn't ask you for this in advance, it just occurred to me, do you have any idea what our average monthly expenditures out of the general fund are? If you need some time to get that, we can come back to it.
The numbers, the projections I have for 2012 are pretty much the same numbers for 11, so you're looking at about $28,000 a month.
Expenses out of the general fund.
Yeah. Again, the largest portion of that is tied right back to personal services, payroll, PERS, Medicare. The part-time police officers do get paid or pay into PERS as opposed to police and fireman pension.
That's a little bit different.
Yeah, 5% break for the village for that.
So moving into the new year, 2012, I don't have the historical data in front of me. I ran out of time. It seems to me that's a higher.
It's one of the
fund
highest in the last 5 years.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I put in my mayor's report here, and this, I happen to have these numbers readily available, which is the reason I was able to get it together, because it was left over from our levy presentation last year on the police department. I put it here in the mayor's report with the average Amelia Police Department fund balance moving into a new year has been, starting from 2005 to 2010. I'll just read through the numbers quickly. In 2005, it was a little over 13,000. 2006, it was a little over 11,000. 2007, not quite 10,000. 2008, 23,000. 2009, 0. In 2010, $28,000. Total carryover dollars for that 6-year period, about $86,000. And I averaged that out to an average carryover balance into each new year from 2005 to 2010 to roughly $14,000. So, I'm just sort of thinking and talking out loud here. Moving into 2012, with a projected fund balance in the police of $71,230 is substantially better than we've done in the past, by more than double. But it's still pretty lean, with a monthly expense of roughly $30,000 or $29,000, and a starting balance for the 2012 of $71,000. It was about $10,000 in wiggle room. That's a lot better than it's been for a long time. It still worries me. We'd be basically one investigation away from one investigation with a lot of man hours away from eating up that $10,000. That's all the information I have. And I just put this information in the council packet just because it was readily available. Just to harken back to it, it shows police department funding issues from levy revenues and shortfalls by the year.
Do you want to go over the general fund contributions to the police fund?
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
No, go ahead. I wanted to make sure what column you were in on that, just to add that to it.
The general
And
fund.
was that figured into your other numbers here in your mayor's report, I guess, is my question.
What do you mean, was it figured in?
For your fund balances, did it include that or not include the general fund contributions to the police fund?
Well, let's see, 2005. Yeah,
5's a hard year to determine.
yeah, it's hard to tell, yeah.
But if those were your fund balances, I would think that you had your general fund expenditures figured into that.
That's what I would assume, yes.
Yeah, I see those there. It's just where they figured into those numbers that you reported.
Yeah. So, it just shows a total expenditure from that fund, from the general fund into the police fund. That's what it shows. So I guess I'm not really sure how to answer the question, because at the end of the year, if you got $13,000 left, that's what you have left, but over the
Or
course
did
of...
this add to that to make it through the year?
Right. Yeah.
That's the-
Over the course of the year, the general fund in that particular year spent $110,000 of fund. So I guess I would have to, I didn't get the chance to research it. I kind of this.
Do you want to go through the numbers for us? Just
Where-
so everybody knows on the
On
general
the expenditures
funds?
from the general fund?
Correct.
Expenditures from the general fund historically from 2005 through 2010. In 2005, the general fund contributed $110,300.23 to the police levy, or police expenses. In 2006, it contributed $7,033. In 2007, contributed $49,583. 2008 contributed $41,953. In 2009 contributed $6,408.84. 2010, it did not contribute at all. However, there's Mr. Gilpin made a notation in here that the revenues in 2009 were higher than typical revenues due to the lump sum of delinquent taxes that were paid. So that's why we didn't have to dip into the general fund there. So with all that information out on the table, I just want to open the floor to discussion for council. If anybody has any questions for the fiscal officer, or any input, anything that they'd like to add.
Just in your mayor's report, there's some red numbers.
Yes, sir.
Did you really mean those to be red?
I just made them red for so they would jump out.
Because nothing matched, and
Yeah.
that's where I got,
Yeah.
what's going on here?
Yeah, they changed when we got here. So
Okay,
that's why I was correcting that, because apparently...
but red meant nothing.
No, I read that.
It was just
It
highlighted.
just jumped out for me. It didn't mean we're in the red.
We're in the red. When I saw this, I thought probably the same thing Derek thought.
And then all of a sudden, we're talking about two different things here. It's like, okay.
No, it did not mean that we were in the red. They were just highlighted in red, so it was easy for me to read,
Okay.
and so that it would jump right out. The bottom line is projected positive carryover balance in the general fund in 2012 of $121,503, and a projected carryover balance to the positive of $135,218 at the end of 2012. So, and that number there where it says difference and all that, just ignore that because obviously some mistakes there. So again, I open the floor to council for any discussion or questions, and if there are none, we'll move on. All right. Sounds like there are none. We'll move on. Next item on the agenda this evening is the police chief's report. Chief Wallace.
Mayor and members of council, I gave Julie a copy of the monthly report, and it should be in your packets. I had a few interesting cases throughout the month, which resulted in we getting some of our young copper thieves. And part of the residual fallout from those investigations is some more trap thieves out in the township. They were fighting those folks. So our information helped the sheriff's department put good habeas corpus on them. So they were going to clear them off for a while to enjoy a couple days off before they're back out stealing and scrapping again. I'm looking with the Attorney General's office at a new RMS system that's records management. It's a more efficient, productive system, and it looks like it's going to work for us despite the reduction in expenses.
Is that something that's comparable to the Baldwin system that we're currently paying for?
Exactly. I wasn't able to attend the chief police meeting this month, but I was able to attend the business association. They're on a membership drive trying to increase their numbers, and they are now working on, I'll call it a welcome wagon package for new folks coming into the community.